Hi all, Lisa Merrifield here from Trails Edge Astrology, and I am here to talk about the astrology of July. Now, July is one of those months that I think a lot of us have been excited about, or at least interested to see how we can work with this energy. So let's dive in and talk about why that is. So the main feature of July that I am excited about is this Venus retrograde in Leo. So Venus goes retrograde about every 18 months, and it actually follows a pattern where it's retrograde in the same signs about every 8 years. So if you think back 8 years or 16 years or 24 years, if you've been around thinking about these things that long, you might be able to see some patterns in your life. So Venus retrogrades are a time when we do Venusian things internally, when we review our values, or we review what we find beautiful or what we want to spend time or resources on. Could also be that we review our relationships. So it's not an outward time. Retrogrades are not a time where we necessarily look for outward affirmation of the activities or whatever we're doing. It's a time to really stop and rethink what we want to do and how we want to show up. So this time around, Venus is in Leo, and Leo is about, is the style of authenticity, is the style of really standing in our own power and really leading from our heart center. So I have been calling this the summer of self-love. So this is a time when we can really stop and focus on what's important to us, what we want, what we value, where we want to spend our time and resources, and really focus on that. Really just give ourselves permission to stop and reflect and kind of get some of this sorted out. You know, after the pandemic years and after the beginning of this year was wild for many of us in good ways, but this Venus retrograde feels like a time when we can stop and pause and think about what's working, what's not working, how do I want to tweak it, how do I want to go forward? So Venus goes retrograde on July 22nd, and it stays retrograde through September 3rd. So this is a good chunk of time. We're actually already in what's called the Venus retrograde shadow. So we are in a part of the sky that Venus is already going to pass over, or is going to pass over during its retrograde. So we may already be seeing some of these themes coming up. So this can be a time that can feel frustrating and boring sometimes. So I want to warn you of that and invite you to really work with this energy in the ways that it can really be most productive. So it is not a time when you should expect people to lay praise down at your feet or to really recognize what you're doing or any changes you're making. It's really an internal time. It's really a time to focus that energy on yourself and think about those things for yourself. So don't expect a lot of external praise. It may come. There may be another part of your chart that will point to that. But this energy is really about you focusing on you taking some time to slow down and think about what you like and what you want to do. This Venus retrograde is also going to interact with Uranus, which is our planet of liberation, and Jupiter, which is our planet of expansion, which makes it, again, super nice. I think it could have the potential, if we really slow down and look internally, I think it could really have the potential to be interesting in letting us break free in some ways that maybe we haven't been able to in the past. So again, look back 8 years, 16 years, and see if there's a theme where this is coming up. If you have your chart in front of you, you can look at the house that's ruled by Leo. Doesn't have to have any planets in it. It's connected to the house the house that your sun is in, your SUN is in. If that doesn't make sense, no worries. But if it does, those are the houses to look at. Look at the house where Leo is on the cusp, whether or not there are any planets in it, and the house that your sun is in. And we look to the house that the sun is in because the sun rules the sign of Leo. So this is kind of the main event. This is the thing that I'm super excited about. I am really looking forward to stopping and pausing and thinking about what it is that I want to take forward, how I want to spend my time, how I want to spend my resources, how I want to engage in relationships going forward. I'm and not pushing it, just feeling into it and really being receptive. So I hope you're excited about this too. Again, don't push. It's not a time to push. It's not a time to go forward. The rule of thumb is during Venus retrogrades, don't change your haircut. Don't get a whole new wardrobe. Don't do any of those kind of Venusian things. Don't remodel your home or buy new furniture or anything like that. Think about it. Think about what you want to do. And then come September or October, make the steps. Another thing that's happening this month that, again, I'm super excited about is the nodes of fate are changing sign. And the nodes of fate are aspects of the moon and the sun where they come together in what's called the ecliptic, which is not terribly important. But the nodes of fate kind of indicate our soul's direction in life. And we have nodes of fate in our birth chart. So we have some kind of cosmic, karmic direction, and not karma in a bad way or anything, just like the gifts we come in with and the direction our soul is moving. So we all have that in our birth chart. And there are nodes of fate in the sky at any given time. They change about every 18 months. And so the nodes of fate on July 17th are moving from Taurus and Scorpio, where they've been for the last year and a half, to Aries and Libra. So this Taurus and Scorpio axis has really been about what we need to release in order to grow, what needs to go in order to build the next thing. And Taurus and Scorpio are what's called fixed signs. So it's not about rapid change or fluctuation. It's about grounding in and really giving this some solid attention. And so that's probably what you've been doing for the last year and a half in one way or another, wherever Taurus and Scorpio are in your chart. But now we're moving into this Aries and Libra axis. And the Aries and Libra axis is a lot more about what are the ideas that drive the innovation? How do we blend those together? What are the relationships that help us individually move forward? It's about that self-actualization versus who I am in committed relationships, and that balance in that relationship, in that along that axis. It's not a one way or another thing. The nodes of fate always go together. So it's always those opposites that call us. And I heard Mark Jones, who's an evolutionary astrologer in London, I believe, discusses the nodes of fate as sort of the infinity sign. So it's not one or the other. You don't land in one side or the other. It's really this dynamic interaction between the two of them. So that Aries, fire, initiation, building, leap before you look kind of energy, blending and balancing with Libran energy, which is all about balance and about relationships and about being thoughtful and about seeing all sides of things. So this will be an interesting shift, and we'll start to feel some of those changes. We may have already started to feel some of those during the eclipse season, which happened earlier in the spring. Because of the nature of the way this energy works. But it's really going to come into full force coming up here in the next year and a half. So look at the Aries and Libra houses in your chart and see where they are, see what those look like. And if you don't have your chart in front of you, that's okay. Just feel into where you're being called to grow. Aries and Libra are what are called cardinal energy. So it is initiating energy. So I think that you will probably feel some impetus to start something. This runs in the background. It's soul level change. But I'm interested to see how it comes out for you. Now, in July, this is a particularly interesting time for this change because the nodes of fate will be squaring Pluto, and Pluto is our planet of transformation. It's our planet of really digging into the shadows and digging down into the muck to bring things to the surface and shine lights on them. So, so this time, particularly in July, as the nodes are changing signs, let's look at maybe what's coming to the surface to be exposed or to be disinfected. And I really think this could be an opportunity for some ancestral healing, potentially, or some family karmic healing, some healing around the structures in our lives that maybe we haven't focused on. So see what that brings up for you. The nodes of fate changing sign are significant, but the fact that they're squaring Pluto is, it really, I think, has some potential to give us some things to work with and some things to work on. So what else is happening this month? These are not the only things. So on July 3rd, we have a beautiful full moon in Capricorn. And this full moon, I think, is going to be about balancing our need to ground and our need to be practical with our need to be vulnerable and accessible to people. It's a nice moon. The aspects to it are nice. If you're inclined to do full moon rituals, or if you are one to charge crystals or moon water, or your tarot decks or your oracle decks or anything like that, this is a nice moon to do that with. Good aspects and kind of that axis of bringing spirit into matter and matter into spirit and the flow between those two. Then on July 10th, Mars goes into Virgo. So Mars has been in Leo. And Elizabeth Grace, who is a fantastic and hilarious astrologer out of New York, says that when Mars is in Leo, Mars can commit murder and not get in trouble. And that is hyperbole. It's not honestly true. But Mars in Leo just gets what it wants. And that's all good, but we got a lot of Leo energy right now, and we got that Venus retrograde coming up in Leo. So Mars moving into Virgo, I think, is really a time, I wrote here, to clean up your metaphorical mess. So with those nodes squaring Pluto, with that deep dive, and let's disinfect the stuff that needs to be disinfected, let's shine light on the stuff that needs to have light shone on it. Mars going to Virgo is really going to support that effort and let us dig in and do the work that needs to be done. And also on July 10th, Mercury goes into Leo. I mentioned there's a lot of Leo energy. So at this time, Venus and Mercury will both be in Leo. Leo is our communication and our ideas. So Mercury in Leo is loud and proud. Mercury in Leo speaks their truth, speaks with authority, speaks from their authentic heart. So that's nice energy. On July 17th, we have a new moon in Cancer. And the new moon in Cancer is very feeling and very intuitive and very deeply in line with family and security and values and those sorts of things. But it's opposite Pluto again. Pluto, that planet of transformation that's asking us to shine a light on the stuff that we might not have wanted to look at. And I'm interested in working with this new moon, in looking at my role in the power dynamics in my life, and where it is that maybe I am contributing to some of the stuff that's driving me crazy, and maybe where it is that I can be vulnerable, or I can express how I'm feeling about something that might dissolve some of those power dynamics. So I think that'll be a helpful, cathartic new moon. Probably a lot of feelings, but sometimes we need to feel our feelings. All right, and then on the 22nd, the sun goes into Leo, which brings together Mercury, loud and proud, Venus in Leo, heart-centered values, authenticity, and then the sun in Leo, which is just our vitality being attached to that real solar ray. And so we have that trifecta in Leo. So just lots of really juicy energy to dig into what are our values, what do we want, how do we want to show up in the world, what is still working and what is not working. And if you remember back, July 22nd is also the day that Venus goes retrograde. So the sun goes into Leo and Venus goes retrograde in Leo on the 22nd. So that'll be an interesting day. And as I say, dig in and really reflect during that time. Then on July 23rd, Chiron stations to go retrograde. And Chiron is what's called a centaur in the sky, and it has an interesting elliptical orbit. So it's not as regular a pattern as some of the other planets. It spends a lot of time in Aries, which is where it is now, and less time in Libra, which is where it is when it's on the opposite side. But Chiron is called our wounded healer. I like to think of it as the place where like, especially early in life, we think we're broken. And then usually often when we get to about 50, we have what's called a Chiron return. And we realize the place we think we were broken is really our superpower. Some people realize it earlier, some people it takes longer. But it's that place where your wounds are really like the place where you're the canary in the coal mine, and singing to everyone else and saying like this is not broken. This is really a superpower. This is how we should or could live in our lives. So the personal planets, the moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, there we go. When they go retrograde, and the moon doesn't go retrograde, just Mercury, Venus, and Mars. When they go retrograde, we feel it differently than we feel something like Chiron going retrograde, because it's an outer planet. It's beyond the Earth in the rotation. And so we feel a little bit differently. But when a planet like this stations, when a body like this stations, we can feel some of that energy. So, we were talking about like shining lights on the stuff we think, the muck and the things that we need to bring up with the Pluto work. This could be another chance to stop and reconsider where you are wounded and how that wounding has shaped your values and how you show up in relationships. And because Leo is retrograde, I think this could be a nice way to kind of feel into some of those things that maybe we're not inclined to feel into all of the time. So yeah, just see what opens up at the end of the month, and work with it. Be brave, be willing to go there. And then finally, on July 28th, Mercury goes into Virgo. Mercury is moving really, really quickly right now. In September, it's going to go retrograde in Virgo. So it's going to spend a lot of time in Virgo. But Mercury in Virgo is exalted. It is the place where Mercury is most happy. Mercury rules Virgo, and it's really that space where Mercury can analyze all the details and put the pieces together and figure out the plan. And so as we're doing that Venusian Leo retrograde work, we'll have a little boost to help us kind of put some pieces together and pull things together in a nice, hopefully a nice way that is helpful and cathartic. All right. If you want to embody this energy, and this is a lot of what I'm about, like it's fine to like think about and intellectualize these transits, but how do you bring them into your body? And I do that with physical objects. So during this time, during July, if you are inclined to do chakra work, I think we're focusing on your heart chakra, focusing on your solar plexus chakra, which is in the middle of your belly, and focusing on your throat chakra could be really helpful. And you can focus on chakras by doing yoga. Yoga is a way to do that. Meditations, you can find lots of meditations that have either rhythms that interact with the pulses and the vibrations of these chakras, or just meditations, guided meditations, where you can talk about and think about how to embrace those parts of you. So Venus is related to the heart chakra. I included solar plexus and throat, which are related to Mars and Mercury. I included those because I feel like they are they're so integrally connected, and something, places we want to lean into during this time where we're rethinking our values and we're rethinking how we want to show up in the world. If you are inclined to work with crystals, I really like rose quartz for any kind of Venusian things. Rose quartz is about unconditional love for yourself and others, and just can really dial down the temperature and allow you to live in that heart-centered space. I like jade. I always like jade, but I like jade for these transits because jade can help you set up some boundaries. It does lots of really nice things, but that boundary piece, that being able to put up the parameters and say, this is me and that's you. We're both okay, but I'm here and that's where I'm going to stay. And then citrine, I think, is a really lovely one. Again, pretty much all of the time. Citrine helps you speak with your authentic voice and live into your authentic power. And it's a nice stone to have around when you need to step up and be public and really, really stand with self-confidence. And then if you're inclined to work with herbs, plant teachers are really, really lovely. They're very subtle, but they can really support us energetically. And so any Venusian work, rose is an excellent one. Rose is very much about intuition and about self-love. So rose tea is typically how I take rose. So I make a cup of tea, rose tea, and it's very tasty and just helps with those vibrations. Hawthorn is another one that I think is really interesting. Hawthorn is heart healing. And glance at my notes here. Yeah, so hawthorn I really like because it helps us put up those boundaries again, sort of like jade helps us with boundaries. Hawthorn can help us heal our heart, heal the hurt in our heart, and do that by putting up some boundaries that allow us to stand in our truth. Damiana is an interesting one. Damiana is often known as an aphrodisiac, and it can have that effect. But what it's actually doing to your energy body is something called an adaptogen, and it just helps regulate your nervous system. It cools it down where it needs to cool down. It ramps it up where it needs to ramp up, and it again lets you be your authentic self. I usually take Damiana as a tincture, which you can find in usually natural food stores, health food stores. So I take a few drops. So I either put it in water or just take it straight under my tongue. But it's a nice one. A little bit more present than rose and hawthorn will be. So it's a little bit more of an active kind of thing. But if you want that kind of help regulating your nervous system, Damiana can be a nice one. And black cohosh is the last one I will mention. Again, black cohosh is a little bit more powerful, but it can help break up that stagnant energy. And if there are things that you need to bring to the surface and shine a light on, black cohosh can help you do that. And again, I take black cohosh generally as a tincture. So in a liquid form, either mixed in water or underneath my tongue. And I usually take that one before bed because it can help. It can help get things out in your dreams and whatnot. So those are just some of the ways that I am working and embodying this energy as we go into this to help support my nervous system as I really explore what works and what doesn't. Finally, I want to mention that if you are interested, my good friend Denise Hewlett and I are offering some Summer of Self-Love astrology readings to help you lean into this energy. So during these readings, you get both of us for 90 minutes, and I focus on your personal forecast, and Denise focuses on a relationship forecast. So we can look at you and any kind of partner you want to look at. It can be a romantic partner, it can be a business partner, it can be a friend, it can be an ex, whatever kind of relationship you want to look at as you lean into this Venus retrograde Summer of Self-Love energy. And you can find more about that by messaging me through YouTube or my pages, or going to the cosmiccurriculum.com, which is the link's right there. So I hope to see you. I hope this was fun and interesting, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye for now.